Who wants to be held down and forced to do something they don't want to do? Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm the Legit Creep and I'm a professional body piercer. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at something that has been quite highly requested and also something that is a little bit controversial. So essentially what we're going to be talking about is why babies shouldn't be pierced. Trust me, piercers get told on a daily basis why it should be okay, and we are given from parents every single reason why, but their reasons don't make a lot of sense and it's not really justified, but they choose to tell us anyway. For instance, if we turn a baby away because we're not going to pierce them, parents will go off and we get abused over it so very much. It's a super enjoyable time. Like, it's probably my favorite part of the job. I love being abused so much. But yeah, a lot of people have asked this because there are a lot of people who are on our side. But basically, I'm just going to give you a little rundown of some of the main points why you shouldn't do it. All we're asking is for you to wait a little bit longer, and most of the time you will get turned away anyway if you try and go to a professional piercer to get your baby's ears pierced. Which brings us to our first point, which is majority of the time, these piercings that are done on babies that actually get done are done with piercing guns. And honestly, I don't think I even need to get into the whole piercing gun debacle. I mean, I've done videos about it before. If you want to go and watch them, piercing guns are not safe, they're not sanitary, they shouldn't be used, especially on young babies. I mean, they shouldn't be used on anyone, but bringing that kind of trauma into your baby's life to begin with and the issues that it can cause, it's not a safe thing to put your baby through. So what you're essentially doing is putting the baby in danger. Now, I know that a lot of people out there don't understand or don't know the dangers of piercing guns. So please go and watch that. If you think everything I'm saying is complete bullshit, at least go and watch that video and understand why piercing guns are bad, because I will give people that there are a lot of people out there that just don't know that, and that's not their fault. I totally understand that it's hard for people to find the right information about piercings, especially when people go into a mall, a shopping center, and piercing gun piercings are like thrown in their face essentially. So like, it seems like I go to a shopping mall, everything here is going to be safe because it wouldn't be running still if it wasn't. But piercing guns have got away with this for many, many, many years. It baffles me. It baffles all piercers as to how piercing guns are still functioning thing.
I don't understand.
So the first concern is that if you're going to a reputable piercer, they will not pierce your baby. So that generally means you'll wind up at somewhere that is piercing your baby with a gun. The trauma that it causes, not only from the piercing itself, from getting a gun piercing, which is causing blunt force trauma and cause a whole array of other issues, it can also cause trauma for the future. Now, I know that may sound a little over the top and you can take it however you wish, but just think about, I know even for instance when I was younger and I was very young, getting needles, like your vaccinations and that sort of thing, like to this day I think about it and it's like terrified me forever. I myself remember basically being held down by the doctor to give me those vaccinations because I needed them. A baby doesn't need a piercing. I cannot even begin to explain the amount of times I've heard, you know, I need to get them done because I don't want them to remember when they're older, or I need to get them done because if they do it when they're older, they're not going to look after it and they're not going to take care of it and it's going to get infected and they're going to go swimming and all these things. That it's sort of like, yeah, but you're not thinking about the things that can still happen if you get it done now, and the trauma that they can still go through. Even like young people come in and they say they remember when they got their first ear piercing done and they're still terrified of it now. Or young people come in screaming even though they want like this second ear piercing, but they're so traumatized from the first time they got it done. It happens. Even if you don't believe it, it does happen to people, and you don't know how your child is going to react to this piercing. They can wait a few years until they're old enough to say, hey, I really want that. So when you think about it as a parent, the parent is making the decision for them. It's a body modification. It's changing a part of their body. It's a decision that should be made by the individual themselves as to whether they want this piercing or not, and whether they are going to take care of it and whether they are going to take care of it forever. Now, another one of the major reasons why professional piercers won't and why baby shouldn't be pierced is because they cannot consent to it. They're too young to say whether they do or don't want this piercing. Why should they have to go through the pain and trauma of getting this piercing if they don't even want it? This may seem a little excessive, but you wouldn't give your baby a tattoo, so why would you give your baby a piercing? I know it's not permanent, but they're going to have a permanent scar once they have that piercing. So essentially, you're scarring your baby without their consent. So another reason is the fact that they can't look after them. I've heard it all before. Parents will try and convince you to pierce the baby's ear because they're going to look after it. They know the way to do it. And because the baby can't look after them themselves, they also can't tell you if something is going wrong, if they're in pain. I know they can scream and they can cry and their bodies can show signs of something going wrong, but they can't actually speak up and tell you, which can be a huge issue. Going on for them not being able to look after them, also the fact that babies will grab, touch, pull, play with pretty much anything, something that is now attached to their body. What do you think they're gonna do with? It's happened before. Babies have literally ripped out their own ear piercings, and just imagine the drama on top of what they've already gone through. It's pretty traumatizing for them. Even if you try your absolute hardest, they're still going to get touched. They're still going to get like played with. Even if you think you can watch them 24/7, which I'm sure parents do, like they obviously look after their baby very, very well. I'm not saying anyone doesn't, but I'm saying that like you can't control their hands from not touching something. As many times as you pull them away, they're gonna keep touching them. If you were to somehow find a professional piercer who uses needles that is going to do them, some would say they aren't a professional because they should not be performing this piercing, but try and get a baby to stay still for a needle piercing. Oh, how fun that would be. Just think about when you were younger, or when a sibling was younger, or when you've seen another child get like a needle, for instance. It is so hard to get them to stay still for even that. Try getting a perfect ear piercing done with a needle. Also, a lot of the time with babies, their head needs to be held. I mean, I'm sure you've seen before from a million of the videos I've put up from TikTok. If you look at this video here, the baby's head is being held. That's because sometimes the baby is so young that they need like the support on their head. Sometimes it's because they're holding the head quite intensely so that the baby can't move around so that the piercing can be done. They're trying to move away. They don't want this done. Hence, they haven't consented to it. You're essentially holding them down, and that's not a nice thing to be doing to anyone. Who wants to be held down and forced to do something they don't want to do? No one should be forced to do something they don't want to do, and the baby can't even tell you that they don't want to do it. They're just held down. No, you're going to do this. That is not okay to be doing to a child, to be doing to anyone, in fact. The jewelry will not be sized properly. Obviously, if it's done with a gun, we already know that they're not sized properly to begin with for anybody, let alone for a baby. A baby's ears are so small, and they're also so sensitive because they're still growing. Because the baby's still growing, the jewelry isn't going to be sized properly, especially when babies are super young. They're growing very quickly. As a lot of people probably know, they move through their clothing sizes very quickly. So think about the ears in this scenario as well. Their ears are going to be growing quickly too. By having the wrong size jewelry, this can cause a lot of problems. It can cause them to be really uncomfortable, to sleep with, to bathe with, to just do any daily activity with them in. It can cause them to be sticking into the baby's neck. They can get ripped if they're too large. A huge thing that happens all the time. You see it far, far, far too often. A million people come in when they are older and their piercings are now uneven. Now, this has so many things to do with the fact that it's generally done with unqualified people. It's done with a gun. It's done with unfit jewelry, and these are all problems that can come from wearing unfit jewelry too, is the fact that it can like cause them to heal uneven. A lot of people will come in to get a professional piercing in the future, and what they have is two uneven piercings, so it generally means they either have to take them out and get them redone like after they've closed up, or they're going to have constant uneven piercings as they go up their ears. So people come in to get their seconds. You sort of had to explain to them that like what the issue is going to be. And a lot of people are very frustrated when that happens, but they generally don't realize it until a piercer comes and sees it in the future, and they're like, just so you know, these are uneven, and it's going to cause problems the whole way up that you go with your piercings. I think one of the major things to realize is just the fact that you can wait a few more years, allow them to wait a few more years, and they will be able to make the decision for themselves, and they might tell you that they don't want them, and it was a good thing that you didn't get them pierced. And they might tell you that they do want them, but it will be a good lesson for them to learn how to look after something properly. It will be very good for them to realize that they can work hard and get something that they want after they've asked for it. So let's think about it, and let's not shove unwanted jewelry through a baby's poor little ear. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like down below and subscribe to my channel if you are new here, and I'll be back very soon. Bye!